Dive in the deep end, it's time to defend your movie.
Hello, friends, and welcome to this week's episode of Defending Your Movie. I am your host, Jeremy Meyer. So today is a really fun episode because we're talking about a really fun movie that, honestly, I had a feeling this movie was going to pop up sooner or later, and not surprised at all it was sooner. But today I am sitting down with a friend of mine, Jesse Fresco, another member of the Montressor Media Group. He's someone I knew when I started this podcast I wanted to have on. Jesse and Seth, kind of two of the ones, like, right away I knew, like, oh, I clicked really well with these guys. But yeah, so he picked this movie, and the movie for today is Shoot 'Em Up, starring Clive Owen, Paul Giamatti, Monica. Oh, let me look up her name. I always get her name confused because I don't speak the language. Monica, I think it's pronounced Belusi. And sorry if you can hear my cat meowing at me right now. He had dinner, but he thinks he didn't have dinner, so he's getting a little annoying. But Shoot 'Em Up is one of my favorite action movies to just throw on because you kind of don't need to pay attention to it at all. It's literally a movie that it's like if you just shoved every gunfight idea into one movie, which was literally the concept of the film. That's how it was thought of. And it delivers on that premise. It's just a completely self-indulgent action movie that doesn't try to pretend to be anything else than what it is. And it's kind of perfect for it. It completely accomplishes what it sets out to do, and it's just an amazingly fun time. And like, it does have some surprising depth when it needs to. Like, it gives you just enough of its characters. It's kind of the Mad Max Fury Road of gunfight movies, which the only other movie I'd put in that category is Free Fire, which is also a fantastic movie if you haven't seen it. But yeah, it's incredibly fun, directed and written by Michael Davis, and it feels in the vein of movies like, oh, what was that movie that was all in first person? Hardcore Henry? Yeah, like, kind of in the same vein, just not as dizzying. But yeah, so before we get into the episode, we do have our new sponsorship. So we are partnered up with the Cryptic Closet now. It's horror themed and parody themed merchandise, t-shirts, fanny packs. If you want to get a Fanny DeVito, you can go over there and check it out. Stickers, pins. Just enter code DEFEND at checkout and get 21% off your order. So thanks over to Cryptic Closet, friends of mine over there. Be sure to check them out, crypticcloset.com. You can also check out our Patreon and it's been a little while since I recorded an intro. Let me pull this up just to be clear. At patreon.com/defendingmovie. You can also find our merch store at belowthecollar.com/defendingyourmovie. And then, of course, our social medias at defendingmovie for, Twitter, Instagram, and all that stuff. So without further ado, let's get into our episode for Shoot 'Em Up. So even though this is a movie I've seen a number of times, I wasn't sure how to just get into the episode, so I figured I would do it just the way the movie does it, which is abruptly. Do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
I do. I saw it in the theater.
Really? I missed it in the theater. I don't even know how I discovered this movie. It honestly might have just been looking up Clive Owen movies at the time. Maybe I saw a trailer. I am not sure. But
yeah, I saw the trailer for this, and it struck my fancy. I think at the time Sin City had come out like 2 years before this, and I really loved that first Sin City movie. So Clive Owen as an action hero was on my mind. It hasn't aged very well. If you really watch that first Sin City movie again, it really hasn't aged well.
In terms of content or production or all of it?
Content.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like racism and misogyny in there. It's a little
that's Frank Miller for you.
That's Frank Miller. It's his thing. It's one of those things. But in terms of like this particular film, I saw this when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was really satisfying to watch it. By the way, there's some audio echo I'm hearing, by the way.
Are you hearing from my end or?
I'm hearing it in my headphones.
from of your echoing back, or
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I am not hearing anything weird. I don't.
Huh. That's weird. Oh, it's gone now. Huh.
Really?
Yeah, it's gone now.
Oh, weird. I don't know. Still good.
Yeah, I'm good now.
All right. That's strange.
But I saw this in the theater when I was in college, and I walked out loving it. It was so much fun. I went with my roommate at the time, Mike. We went and saw it. We were like, "Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was stupid, but it was a lot of fun."
Yes.
This movie is really dumb. Yeah.
It is. And like kind of looking back through some of the scenes, it's some of it looks a lot worse than I remember.
Oh, that skydiving action scene did not age well.
No, and I remember that being awesome at the time. Like, oh, this is just insane, like what I'm watching. And then watching it now, I was like, oh, this looks so quaint.
Yeah, it's definitely a film that it only cost about $40 million, and you could level the complaints of the visual effects. Like, well, they didn't have a very big budget, but it's like John Wick would come out in 2014 and had less than this as a budget. So it's probably just maybe ineptitude, or they just didn't have the right production house. It's, you know.
And I watched like a video on this movie before this. And granted, this director hasn't done very much. Like he only
I think this was
directed,
his last. This was his last film. I think. I don't think he makes films anymore.
No, he had a short in 2013, but that's the only thing he's done. And maybe some TV stuff. I'm not even sure of that. But yeah, he hasn't done a lot. And like this was just his passion project, his dream movie. And it did sound like he made some cuts to get it to happen.
Yeah,
but it's kind of impressive that he got to make this movie, and it sounds like almost exactly the way he wanted to make it.
Yeah, I mean, and plus the best movies, the best titles for movies are the ones that explain exactly what it's called. Shoot 'em up, like it's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and I think even on the IMDb, there's like a link to like related articles or whatever, and somebody did a video on this, like, oh, movies where the hero kills more people than the villain. And because like the body count for this movie is huge, and it's just one guy just gunning. Like every scene is just how do we get to the next gunfight?
Yeah, it's a film that revels in its what's the word I'm looking for? It's grotesquerie.
Yeah,
it's you know, it's called Shoot 'em Up. It's about gunfights, about action scenes. It's inspired a lot by Hong Kong action films, John Woo movies, or Chow Yun-fat action scenes. It's basically the baby sequence from Hard Boiled extended out to an entire film.
Yeah, and that was his whole concept. Is he saw that movie, saw that scene. It was like, oh, that'd be a great like full movie, which is fascinating. Like, hey, that's just how it happens.
Overall, I think it works. I think that overall the film is functional. It's the plot, when you break it down, doesn't make any sense, but you're not watching this for the plot. Like, how does everybody know where everybody is at all times? You know, there's even that scene where Paul Giamatti sees some broken glass on the street driving past, and he's like, and they're just like, stop the car here. And he explains like, oh, I've followed, you know, people, and I'm a tracker, and I understand. Like, that could literally be anything.
Yeah,
it's a broken beer bottle for all you know.
It's like literally, it's like, oh, I had all these ideas for gunfights, and we'll just throw a bunch of sticky notes on the wall and see what sticks to like kind of piece them together.
Yeah,
but like
that's fine, you know.
It is fine, and I do think they put together a relatively interesting enough plot to carry the concept. Like you learn just enough about these characters to keep you interested in what's going on.
Yeah, there's a comics writer that I really like who also has done stuff with the podcast that we work with, Film Rescue Show and Split the Difference and Palette Cleanser, Joshua Dysart. And he tweeted, I think like a couple of days ago, do not become too attached to plot, because your stories will become, I think it was like your stories will become flat. Like, don't be too attached to plot. Plot is not the main focus.
Yeah.
Emotional catharsis, enjoyable characters, that's more important.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if the plot makes 100% of sense. Like, because if you pick any movie, you can find a plot hole.
Oh, absolutely. Even like the most perfect movies.
Oh, yeah. Even the most perfect movies, you'll find an issue. So.
Yeah, like this movie is, you could write a masterclass on this of like how less is more in a way. Like there's so little going on. Like even just the introduction of the movie itself, is just him just sitting on a bench, and this woman walks by, and you can tell he doesn't want to get involved, but he's just like, fuck, and he just like has to get involved.
Yeah. It's very Man with No Name. The Sergio Leone trilogy. It even starts. The music sounds a lot like Sergio Leone films when it starts out.
Yeah.
Like the Fistful of Dollars or Good, Bad, and the Ugly. It sounds a lot like that. That close up on Clive Owen's face, you're like, yeah, we know where it's starting, and we know what the main focus is. Yeah,
which is fun because that was all I actually found out, like additional shooting they had to do. Originally, the movie just started while she was giving birth.
Yeah,
and like knowing that, because that's literally where the cut is of like the title cut is, like he walks in and points a gun to the camera and it pops up, shoot him up, and then it cuts to the birthing scene. So it's like, oh, that's kind of where you would see this movie would have just jumped into it. But I love the little opening they put in there.
Yeah, I like it when a movie starts a little bit slower. I typically don't like open on a big action scene because you don't have any understanding of time or space or even like what characters are doing. Like you need to understand who is doing what and why. And that little scene that's like a minute long gives you everything you need. Like
and I love how insane it is. Like
I know, it's just
he's just people yelling at each other. Like a car crashes into another car and there's like, get back here, you bitch, and he's just sitting there. Like
he's just like, oh fuck, and just throws his coffee and just goes.
And sitting there munching on his carrot, which is like a fun little bit.
And the fact that this film is basically a cartoon, like this is Looney Tunes. This is Bugs Bunny versus Elmer Fudd.
Which I may be wrong. Wasn't there something about he originally wanted to call it like Bugs Revenge or some shit like that, or like
something like that? Yeah, but I think that at the ringtone, I think to Paul Giamatti's phone, is it Kill the Wabbit?
It's Flight of the Valkyries because they wanted it to be Kill the Rabbit, but
that's right.
Warner Brothers pulled out at the last minute.
Yeah, there was some kind of rights conflict. Yeah, but
they saw
my
understanding.
Content.
Yeah, that's what it is. From my understanding, they found out what the movie was. Like, oh, what? No,
like the title didn't give it away.
Yeah, like how I don't. Again, maybe if it had a different title in the beginning, maybe that's what changed. But
I don't know.
Yeah, it's this is just a movie I've thought about since it came out, but I haven't watched. That I wonder if is maybe up for a comparison with this movie is that Hardcore Henry movie.
Oh yeah, I like that film.
Yeah, it feels like, is that good? Is that worth watching? Like I've never seen it.
It's good for a one-time watch.
Yeah,
it is a one-time watch. The film that director followed up with, which is a film that just came out called Nobody, that's definitely worth watching.
Oh my god, is that the same director?
That's the same director, Ilya Nalshire. That is the same director. It's
I have not seen Nobody yet, but I'm dying to see it.
Oh, it's so good. I've watched it like 3 times in a day. It was so much fun. Yeah, it kind of sort of fits into the John Wick universe because it's the same writer, Derek Kolstad, but they can't legally do that because Nobody is owned by Universal and John Wick is owned by Lionsgate. So they can't legitimately cross them over, but it's implied, it's the same universe.
It's one of those things like wink and nudge, you know what's in there.
Yeah, the transporter shows up in Michael Mann's Collateral in the first scene.
I always forget about that.
Yeah, that's an unofficial sequel to one of the Transporter films.
Yeah.
I guess Michael Mann likes the Transporter.
I guess, well, yeah, I don't know if there's any other connective tissue there, like if anybody else had a hand in both productions or not. But yeah, like it's just a movie where like it has a concept. Like Hardcore Henry's like a first person action movie. Shoot 'em up is literally just gunfights. Yeah. And just the way they kind of just stitch them together is so fascinating. And like I love Clive Owen's character in this movie. Like he is like the whole Bugs and Elmer Fudd thing is a very good way to look at it because he is very Bugs Bunny like, but also just has this like anger streak to him. Yeah. Like in the scene where they're in the car and he's just bitching about the guy not using his turn signal.
Oh,
I just love the little character stuff they give him in this movie.
Every little complaint that every person has about their day, just like people that slurp their coffee, people that don't use their turn signal, just like simple things that everybody gets really pissed off about that just build up. And it's like, this is sort of like cathartic release. Yeah. Like if you could get away with doing this stuff, you would do it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of wish fulfillment going on. Like
Yeah.
the scene where he's in the warehouse and the guy's slurping his coffee, and then he's tied up, and then Clive Owen sitting there slurping it just to taunt him.
Yeah. Yeah. I do like that warehouse fight scene. That is a good shootout.
That was definitely one of the first things in this movie when I saw it. I was like, this is like the most creative thing I've ever seen. Like I've never seen somebody do this, and it's all in service of just a ridiculous movie.
Yeah, and the idea of or the fact that he's able to string up all those weapons that quickly without anybody finding, like, fuck it, who cares? No one gives a shit.
Yeah, rewatching that scene today, I was like, oh, he gets a lot done in a little bit amount of time, and nobody notices.
Like a lot.
And it's like, and then the transition from that is he's done, and then just transitions to everybody shooting at him. There's no scene where they show that he gets discovered or anything. It's just, oh, all of a sudden they know he's there, and it's like, all right, gunfight time.
Yep. Because it's the films, the sequences of the film are stitched together so just by like the barest thread.
Yeah.
Like, how does he know how does Mr. Smith, which I think it's funny they call him Mr. Smith, because Matrix had wrapped up like what 4 years earlier.
Yeah, like 3 years, I think.
Yeah, I think something like that. But he knows to go to was it Hammerman's or Hammersmith's gun factory by looking at a newspaper article that was basically the baby's diaper.
Yeah,
like, that's how he goes to it's Hammerson's. He knows to go there because he saw an article in a newspaper.
Well, I think there's also some reference to like, oh, like nobody has these guns because it's like a private company or something.
That could be anybody.
Yeah,
that could literally be anybody.
It's literally just it's kind of
the
impressive.
The loosest thread.
It's kind of impressive how he makes it work though. Like there's just all these tiny little things getting you from A to B, and you're just entertained the whole time. So you don't really bump up against it.
Yeah, and you could make the argument of, well, if this film had a better script, it would have been better received. I think it would actually be worse because you'd be worrying more about the plot.
Yeah, like this is not a movie I want to be caring about. Like I care enough about the main character that I want to see him succeed, and that's kind of all you need.
Yeah, this is a probably a C grade movie that gets bumped up to a B grade movie because of all the talent involved. Like if these actors were not in this film, this would be like a C grade movie. This is going to sound disparaging, but I would say if this was coming out now, this is instant going to Redbox.
Oh, absolutely.
This is a Redbox movie, but
nobody's paying attention to this now.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like it came out, it didn't do well, it lost money, and it gained this like very, very specific cult following. I think it has like what, like a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like it's split the audience in half. Yeah, it's kind of a shame. But you have people like Clive Owen, Paul Giamatti, Monica Bellucci, Stephen McHattie, all of which have gone on to be very successful actors.
Yeah, and like
even some even were. Like Monica Bellucci was in a ton of movies prior to this, and still does films now.
Yeah, and even Clive Owen had his successes before this, but
yeah,
it's like, and as good as he is in the movie, I think this is Paul Giamatti's like, this is his movie. He is just fantastic in this film.
He is. I think he actually was called because he always wanted to do something like this. He always kind of plays like schlubby guys, you know, office workers, or like just people that just kind of stand around and talk. They don't do any kind of like physical acting. And when he got the call to do this, he was like, they were like, "You want to do this, really?" And he was like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
he was all in for it.
And I was reading that like he's like, oh, like people applauded for when his character gets killed. He's like, that's all I ever wanted. Like I wanted to be someone that people hated so much that they were happy that he died.
Oh, he plays such a good scumbag.
He's so good, and he has like all the best dialogue.
Oh yeah, did you notice the giant zit that's right next to his nose?
Yeah, and so this was something
he looks
I've
so
heard
scummy all the time.
Yeah, that didn't really cross my path. So apparently there's supposed to be this whole thing about like he's an obsessed killer and only cares about his work, and so he looks terrible. All like his beard is all like poorly cut, and this movie was coming out when he was on press tours for like an Oscar nomination. So he was doing all these interviews and stuff with just this like horrible hairstyle and stuff. And apparently people just thought he was maybe like losing his mind, but I was like, no, it's for a movie.
It's for a movie. Yeah.
But like I didn't even really notice the first time I saw it that like he's supposed to look as bad as he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's because I've never had like facial hair, so I don't know like what trimming that is even supposed to look like. But
I mean, I used to have I used to shave all the time. Then I started trying out the goatee, and I'm like, yeah, I like this look a little bit better.
Yeah,
I look better with a goatee. A lot of people say that I look better with a goatee.
Yeah, it looks real nice.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, but like he's just so good in this movie as like a bad guy, and yeah, like I've never seen him do something like this before. I can't think of any time he's done it since. But
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh, that's true, but that's very brief.
Yeah, and let's try to forget that ever happened.
You know what? That could be a future episode on here, according to me.
No.
I have a soft spot for those movies. For one, I'm a massive Spider-Man fan. So in my opinion, there is no bad Spider-Man movie just because I get one, you know?
Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, no, like whenever I think of this movie, I'm always thinking about him. Like Clive Owen is excellent in this film. Like he really balances that line of like a caring guy, but also just wants to be on his own, but also is kind of an asshole sometimes. Yeah.
And apparently they sent the script to him, I think, like 4 or 5 times, and he kept turning it down. And finally, they convinced him to do it. And you know, he's perfect. Like he really is perfectly cast in this film. But he really didn't want to do something like this, which is odd because Sin City is kind of the same character from Sin City.
Yeah, honestly, it is. Like,
yeah, he looks the same.
Yeah, and I think it was the success of Sin City that kind of pushed him towards it too.
Yeah, because a year before this, I think Children of Men had come out.
Yeah.
In 2006.
Well, I think they released in the same year.
Yeah, they released in the same year, I think. But he was like, I'm going to be an actor now, like a full-on like actor's actor. Yeah. But I think he was trying to get away from that stuff from Sin City, but they convinced him to come back. And I don't think since this movie's come out, he's done anything like this again. He's kind of moved on to television now. He's on that TV show called The Nick, which is I've never seen, but I've heard good things.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. Yeah, I honestly can't remember the last movie I saw Clive Owen in. That was like a big deal.
Yeah, I think that he's one of the few actors in this movie that just kind of said, I'm just kind of tired of being in the spotlight. Yeah, I think he just got tired of it. It's a shame,
Yeah, he's so good and he's fantastic that I would like to see him do more stuff like this. Like I think even now he could still be doing it. I mean, I don't know how old he is now.
I think he's in his 50s. Yeah, it's not too. Yeah, I mean, if you're 50 in Hollywood, you're technically 30.
Yeah, because
the stunt doubles do most of the work.
True, and whatever fucking virgin blood they're bathing in to look young.
Yeah,
but yeah, like I thoroughly enjoy his kind of like mean streak he has in this movie, and like his introduction is literally killing someone with a carrot.
I know. Oh, God, that came out of nowhere and just caught me off guard. I was like, oh, that's what this movie is going to be.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, I don't think I saw the trailer. I wasn't sure what this movie was. Hey, a movie called Shoot 'Em Up starring Clive Owen. Let's check it out. And when that happened, I was like, oh, okay. And that's when I sit back and I realize what I'm in for.
Yeah. The first trailer had Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue in there, and I was like, oh yeah, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, and they use music really well in this movie. I had forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
And I was one of the things I was looking at before we recorded this. They were talking about like originally they were scoring the movie with just kind of like a standard action movie score.
No, it doesn't work.
But whoever was editing it was listening to Ace of Spades as he was working, and they're like, "Oh, why don't we?" Or I think they were using it as a temp track, and it's like, "Oh, well, this actually works really well." So then they decided to recut the movie to like more rock and roll music.
Yeah, and most of the music is like 80s, music like AC/DC, Motorhead.
Yeah.
Motley Crue. I think they have Wolf Mother in there for one. I think it's was it Joker and the Thief is the first song that you hear when they're up on the rooftop, which is more of a modern song. Came out I think in like the early 2000s, but everything else feels like this feels like an 80s action movie that got put into a time capsule and just got reopened.
It's true. And it really helps with the tone because like if you look at what this movie is, it's about a bunch of people trying to kill a baby. Like it's a pretty serious movie. But it's all like done with almost slapstick like humor to it.
Yeah, like, I really don't think you could make a movie like this now.
No,
well, actually, I take that back. You could make it now, but it would go directly to Redbox and no one would watch it.
Yeah, but like even like the humor in the movie it's like very kind of lowbrow, but also hilarious at the same time. Like the whole sign thing in the beginning where they shoot the sign to say "fuck you."
Oh yeah, and they says "fuck you" too.
Yeah, like. That whole opening sequence, I challenge anybody to watch that and have this not be one of their favorite action movies. It's just so insane.
Or the sex scene shootout.
Yes, which as far as I know, has that ever happened before? I think there was one other movie that has a similar.
I think.
Drive Angry.
Drive Angry has that. I think in the 2007 Hitman movie, there's something like that.
Oh god, I blocked out all memories of that one.
Yeah, we had to do a quick fix on that for Film Rescue. It was difficult.
You can't fix that quickly.
Yeah, we did. We basically just said, yeah, make it like John Wick and just, make it about men at work. That's it.
Oh yeah, all right, fair enough.
Take one mission from the game, extend it out to 90 minutes. There you go, you're done.
Yeah,
there you go, fixed it. But yeah, I don't think that really happens too often because like it's the connection between sex and violence is very obvious in film. It's like the gun is a phallic image. Like they even had the scene where he's sort of torturing her with the very hot barrel of his gun.
Yeah.
Like that scene, like, the phallic imagery of the bullet ejecting from the phallic chamber.
Yeah.
Like, I get it.
And I think they
very
even
obvious.
Joke about that. What is the line where it's like,
talk about shooting your load.
Well, there's also the, what is it? Are you a pussy with a gun in your hand or whatever? And there's all
I'm a tough guy with a pussy in my hand.
Yeah. And it's like they kind of walk the line of dealing with these things. Like there's a lot of talk of like Second Amendment rights and stuff because of the way it plays into the plot, but it's all just kind of spitting in the face of all that at the same time.
Yeah, like it's because all the people that are anybody that says that this is a pro Second Amendment film, like all the guys that are encouraging, the Second Amendment rights, they're all fucking scumbags.
Yeah, and they're
all
die
horrible
because
people.
Of it.
Yeah, they all get their comeuppance. Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's like whenever I see people like wearing the Punisher logo, I was at the gym today and I was wearing my Punisher t-shirt. Whenever I see that and they're like, they think it's a representation of the thin blue line, I'm like, guys, Frank Castle hates cops.
Yeah, like have you ever read a Punisher comic?
No, they haven't. Like when I wear that shirt, that skull does not say thin blue line. That symbol says fuck pigs.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like that Frank hates cops. So so you see this movie whenever you see like anybody like, oh yeah, we're all about, gun rights. It's like, but all the guys encouraging the gun rights are these racist assholes. Like, fuck these people.
There are no heroes in this.
There are no good guys in this whole movie. The most good person, the baby.
Yeah.
The innocent kid.
And even the baby's just like, I just want to listen to death metal.
Yeah. Well, even like Monica Bellucci, I guess she's also good. She's done nothing wrong.
Yeah,
like, I have nothing against sex workers. She's basically innocent in this film.
Which I do love the moment where she just like picks up a trick, like just so they can get some spending money for the baby. Like, in the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did notice that there's one person in this movie that showed up in the Max Payne movie, and it's the guy that has the cock ring that she rips out.
Oh God,
that's the tattoo artist from the Max Payne movie.
Oh God, it is.
Mm-hmm. Same guy.
Another movie I try to forget.
Yeah, fuck that movie.
How do you fuck that? Okay, I have to say, Max Payne is
one of my favorite. We fixed it on Film Rescue.
it's one of my favorite movies or games of all time. Yeah, how do you fuck that up?
Did you hire John Moore and you put Mark Wahlberg in the role? There you go.
Yeah, I mean Hugh Jackman is. If you're gonna pick a big star of that era, he would have been a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Still not maybe even my pick, but would have been a lot better.
My pick was Frank Grillo.
Oh God, that'd be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know who he was until Captain America. So,
check out a movie on Netflix called The Wheelman.
I did. I started that and I got interrupted. I never went back to finish it.
Go back and finish it. It's like 90 minutes. You'll blast through it. It's
great. I need to restart that.
Anybody that says Netflix movies are terrible, no, there's some good stuff out there.
Oh, there's absolutely stuff. I mean, shit. One of my favorite movies of was it 2019 was that Breaking Bad movie.
Oh yeah. Fuck, what's
El Camino?
Called? El Camino. Yeah, Breaking Bad movie. Yeah.
Yeah, like they got good stuff.
But they also fill it with a bunch of crap too. Like what was it? The Titan, that
the space movie or whatever.
Yeah, where was it fucking Jivanich Kinnaming Temple Woodland ends up going to goddamn Titan around Jupiter and turns into a weird monster. Fuck it, whatever. Fuck that movie.
But like, so what you said earlier of like a movie like this would just get dumped to Redbox. I think a movie like this is where it could shine on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could look at something like Extraction, which is a little classier than this movie, but also kind of the same thing. It's like a John Wick style action movie.
I would argue
was super successful.
Yeah, I would argue classy. I would say not classy, but maybe a little bit better made. He does kill.
I'm just saying in comparison to this movie.
Yeah, I mean, he does kill child soldiers in that film, and I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I'm like, oh, okay, that's in bad taste. But overall, I think that it's a good action film with a bigger budget. But I would say that class. Neither of those movies are classy. Like this film, Shoot 'Em Up, came out in a time frame when a lot of movies were coming out that were somewhat tasteless and kind of were willing to break barriers and break new ground and be offensive. Like this came out sandwiched in between the Crank movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have these movies coming out that are lower budget, kind of didn't hold back, very graphic violence, didn't give a shit. This is around the time the Bush administration was in full force.
Yeah.
And so it was, you had one more year of George Bush in office. And so you just see all these movies coming out that are just like kind of wretched and repulsive. Like in horror films, there was the Splat Pack. There was like Rob Zombie and Eli Roth and Alexandra Aja, like the Hills Have Eyes remake, Hostel, House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects.
2000s.
Yeah, man, it was a fucked up time for movie. I mean, there was good stuff coming out in the 2000s, but at the same time, you had just this wretched stuff that is very classless and tasteless, but goddamn, they're entertaining.
Yeah, and like this is the movie I would show my friends. I'm just like, yo, you just want to see this fucking great time, like watch Shoot 'Em Up, and like it's so like disgusting looking, like the film or whatever they use, like it's super grainy and the colors are like gross, but like it's such a great time.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie that if you're suffering from a hangover on a weekend, throw it on.
A perfect hangover movie.
This is a perfect, like if you're having a bad hangover and you just want to sit on the couch and watch something kind of mindless, throw this on. You will not question it at all.
Yeah. Like I forget how funny it is at points, like on top of like even the stuff that is happening, but or like the stuff they're saying. But specifically watching the like warehouse shootout, there's multiple visual gags in the movie. Like they shoot like the butt of like a pretty like a bikini girl poster, and like there's just all this stupid stuff like that. Like it's just throwing everything at the wall, and so much of it lands.
I love the scene where it's the car chase and he blows out the front windshield of his car and then does a head-on collision, dives through the front windshield of the van, lands in the back of the van, turns around and just kills like 5 guys.
Yeah.
I just love that.
And even just the opening action
physically
scene.
That's impossible.
Yeah.
But it's impossibly possible. It's kind of,
And the scene in the park where he's shooting the merry-go-round to make it go around to get it to stop him from getting the baby. And then in the first gunfight, he shoots the oil tank of a car to drip the oil on the ground so he can slide under like a table or something, but he's sliding like 10 miles an hour and like for like 100 yards just to shoot like different guys as he's like sliding. I was like, this could not happen, but I'm loving every second of this.
Yeah. And even like the skydiving action scene, like that's physically impossible as well.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to think about like gravity or physics or anything like that, don't watch this movie.
No,
don't.
Like I have a coworker who I always joke because he'll like watch a movie and be like, oh yeah, it was really good, but there's this one thing, and he'll like nitpick the most random thing, like oh, this person's jeans, they wouldn't be wearing jeans like that, not in like a way that is like, oh, it ruined the movie for me, but I was just like, why are you even thinking about this?
Yeah, I used to do that, and I'm kind of like, you know what, I don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
If I'm emotionally engaged in the movie, if I'm just having a good time, fuck it, whatever. Who gives a shit? That's not what's important.
Yeah, like I used to review stuff, so I used to write for a website, and so for a long time I'd be looking at stuff like super critically, and like in the last few years I'm like, why the fuck am I doing that? Like I'm not writing for anybody, I'm just enjoying stuff for my own taste.
Yeah.
So now it's just like, hey, as long as I'm entertained, like it's great. Like I log a lot of stuff on Letterboxd, and I am very generous with some of my reviews for some movies.
Yeah, I know you love those Transformers movies, but god damn it, man.
Love is a strong word. I enjoy some of those Transformers movies.
Okay, it's fair.
Some being the keyword. But yeah, like I don't know, like this is a movie I have never regretted throwing on.
Yeah, it's always a good time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always a good time.
I'm trying to remember if there's any gunfights. I do love the way he dispatches with Paul Giamatti. Like I forgot about that
Oh
when I
yeah,
rewatched it.
the showdown.
Yeah, and the way he just like has the bullets in his hand and puts them in the
Yeah,
fire and stuff.
yeah,
Like it's so like I don't think that would work, but it's great.
yeah. I will say the one visual effect that I absolutely hate, that I just like I can't let that slide is the when he blows out Paul Giamatti's chest and you see his beating heart in his chest. That's
Oh
the one where
yeah.
that really looks bad.
That's
Even for that time, it looks bad.
yeah, that's literally a Mortal Kombat fatality.
Yes, that is a Mortal Kombat fatality. I love the gag of his wife always calling, but he always blows her off.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the movie, she leaves him. Like I love that. Like perfect rule of threes. I love it when movies just follow those editing and writing rules, like rule of threes, like setup, reinforcement, payoff, just simple things like that. Just help the movie flow. You know,
Yeah.
they give you a grounding point. Like he's blowing off his wife, so at the end of the movie, she leaves him as he's dying. Perfect.
Yeah, it's so perfect.
He gets his comeuppance.
Yeah, and he's such a shitbag throughout the movie. Like even when the girl in the beginning is killed and they're running up the stairs, he just looks back like, "Oh, nice knockers!" as they're running up the stairs. Like,
Oh God,
he just gets everything coming to him, and it's such a good comeuppance. And he's not even the main villain of the movie, but he's the main villain, and it's so good.
yeah. I mean, main villain is technically the senator, I guess, but he's so in the background all the time that I would say
Yeah.
he's just more of an anomaly. You know, I will say it is questionable that Clive Owen does kill him.
Yeah.
Like, he is an asshole, but it's morally gray. But the
Yeah.
whole movie, like we said, there's no good guys in this movie.
No.
Yeah, so it's okay.
If you're looking at this movie thinking Clive Owen is a hero, like I have news for you.
Yeah, I mean, and also trying to give you like his backstory. There's that sequence where he does explain that his family was killed in a McDonald's and he's been kind of on his own since then. That's the only real character development we get for him,
Yeah.
you know? But at the same time, you also have a scene where he is fucking Monica Bellucci while they're in the middle of a gunfight.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this flip-flop of tone. Typically, I'm not okay with that, but the movie doesn't take itself very seriously, therefore I can let it slide.
Yeah, and it does lead to a good line right before he kills Paul Giamatti where he's like, "Oh, I'm dead on about everything I said about you, right?" And he's like, "What did you say?" And then he stops him at "I am dead" before he kills him. Like it's a nice little quip. Like
Yeah.
Clive Owen's got some really good like kind of one-liners in this movie.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
when he kills the guy with the carrot, I think it's "eat your vegetables" or something.
Yeah, eat your vegetables. Remember to eat your vegetables. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like he uses the carrots to kill multiple people because he shoves the carrot into the trigger of a gun and just chucks it into a room. Which
Or the very end of the movie where they're in the ice cream parlor.
Oh yeah.
He has big mitts on his hands because they've been burned. Catches the gun on the carrot and is smacking the back of the gun, getting the gun to fire. It's like,
yeah, I always forget about that ending tag.
Yeah, I love that ending. It's
so good.
It's goofy as fuck, but I think there were plans, or at least it does set up for a sequel, but you know, the movie made no money, got mixed reviews. So it's a shame it didn't continue in some fashion, but this does have a cult following, you know, and I'm proud to be part of that. I'm proud to be part of that following.
Yeah, it did huge on home media. And I was hearing that like the way it was advertised was it didn't really convey what this movie was. That like, oh, it was kind of advertised as just another generic action movie. But it's like, no, guys, like that's not what this is.
Yeah, it came out at a time when it's like with the Crank movies, like how do we market this? Like who's the audience here? Like the Crank movies did really
are gonna watch this.
Yeah, the Crank movies did really well because they cost like nothing. Like the first one was like what, $6 million, $7 million?
Yeah, so it was like under 10 for sure.
Yeah, but this film cost $39 million. They were never going to recoup that.
No.
Then you factor in your advertising budget, which is about twice that, and you're just like, yeah, that's a big bomb.
And it sounds like they did do some like kind of pretty weird advertising stuff. Where they were putting out like fake products for like bulletproof baby helmets and like baby strollers and stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's gonna bring in people.
No, that's not a good image. No, they should have done something like a game. They should have like had like a prequel video game or something like that. Something to inspire people to actually want to go see the film. But
that's 1,000% the audience you should be like.
Yeah, this is a movie like this is kind of like a live action video game, like the Crank movies, or Gamer. Like this is live action video game, and they really should have been aiming for that market, but they the people that were marketing this thing didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, and honestly, I can't fault them because I couldn't think of a better idea. I mean, yeah, like you said, like a video game, something like that. But like even the history of that, like there's been stuff that's done that has not gone so well. Like what was that alien invasion movie with Aaron Eckhart? Battle of Los Angeles.
Oh, Battle of Los. Oh, fuck that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of enjoy it for what it is. It's not great, but like they did a video game thing, and I don't like
it. Was bad.
Yeah, very bad.
Yeah, there was supposed to be a trilogy of movies, and they canceled the trilogy before it even got started.
I always kind of hoped, like, I was always like, oh, you do Battle LA, you do Battle New York, and then you do Battle World is the way I envisioned it.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I liked about that movie is it was something I hadn't seen before, which is, we've seen a lot of alien invasion movies before, but the fact that it was like following just like some troops on the ground was something I appreciated about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't always successful. The alien design was kind of generic, but
yeah. What it basically was, it was a Predator movie in disguise. The Predators invade Earth. That's all it is.
Yeah, that actually kind of, you're right.
That's all it is. It's just Predator. Bad, but it's, it's Predator.
Yeah. So it was the Predator.
Yes. We'll try to forget that ever happened.
I already have.
I know Shane Black has.
Oh, God. Couldn't forget it fast enough.
Ugh. But yeah, the with Shoot 'Em Up, it's one of those films that if you stumble across it on video on demand, give it a watch. It's not gonna change your life, but if you got some time to kill, watch it. It's a B movie. This is definitely,
yes.
I would say this is a good double feature with the Crank films.
Oh, absolutely.
Either it be Crank 1 or 2. Throw on one of those and then follow it up with Shoot 'Em Up. You got a good Saturday night for you. Both, because this is 90 minutes.
And it's actually less. It's like 84.
Yeah, it's 86 minutes, and the credits are like 4 minutes long. So it's barely even up to that point. It's like 80 minutes long. It's like nothing.
Yeah.
And the Crank movie is, I think Crank 1 is 90 minutes. So yeah, you're talking about a good Saturday night.
Yeah, that would be a great double feature.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely more so than Gamer.
Yeah, I don't particularly care for Gamer very much. I know that people that are like that out there that like it. I'm not one of them. I think it has some good ideas, but it's not.
Yeah, I've definitely shown, even just in this podcast, that I like some bad movies, but that one I just can't. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely a quick throw it on and just sit, like a perfect Netflix movie. Like I looked, this movie is streaming on Tubi right now, which this movie is better than Tubi. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, Tubi, it's free television with ads.
Yeah.
It's just TV on a streaming service. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I've watched plenty of stuff on Tubi just fine. And
yeah,
but like this movie should like something like this should live and breathe on Netflix. Like. That's the perfect platform for a movie like, and like you said, if you were to make a new one nowadays, I think that's where it lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah, either on streaming or in the Redbox, which is unfortunate because Redbox is where a lot of people don't realize a lot of stuff that goes to Redbox. There's stipulations in Hollywood that certain actors need to fulfill contracts for their unions. So you have to appear in a certain number of movies for each year. Otherwise, you lose your union membership. Mm-hmm. That's why you see so many big name actors appear in just this crap, because it's something that they can shoot for like a week and then they're gone. But
I did not know that. That makes so much sense.
It fulfills their contract with their union to keep their union membership. That's why you see people like Bruce Willis basically lives in the Redbox now.
Yeah.
Because nobody will hire him.
Yeah.
Or Jason Momoa will show up in like a big, in a production for Redbox. Like, what was it? Once Upon a Time in Venice, also with Bruce Willis. Like, he is way above that.
Yeah, he doesn't need to.
But he has to appear in a certain number of films each year to maintain his union membership.
Interesting. So how do all these there are tons of actors that just like don't do stuff. Like, how do they fucking? I guess it's because of their contracts.
Contracts. Also, if they're employed on a television show, that also fulfills their contract. People like Bruce Willis and Jason Momoa, they don't do television. But they have done some. I think Momoa has done some stuff on streaming. I think on Apple TV or something.
He had
like that.
a Netflix show for a little bit. I don't like Frontier or something. I'm not sure if it's still going.
I have no idea. I don't know. I'm not the biggest Jason Momoa fan. I think he seems like a
Yeah.
nice guy, but as an actor, I'm like, I don't know.
I like Aquaman, but just because it's a fucking insane mess where people look like they're having fun.
Oh yeah, that movie is a complete mess, but it's a fun mess.
Yeah, I'll go out for that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like, I've always heard it described as we'll never probably get to make another Aquaman movie, so just do everything in one movie, and it worked out for them.
I mean, they're making a sequel. They're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, that movie made $1 billion,
Yeah. So.
which caused me to win a bet with a friend. So I did not bet that it would make $1 million. I bet that Shazam would not make $1 billion.
Oh yeah, that didn't make even close.
No, I think it was like
which is a shame
600.
because it's probably the best thing the DC film has actually produced thus far.
Yeah, I honestly, that one just didn't hit for me. I don't know why. Like, I recognize that it's a good movie, but I kind of walked away from it just like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that it was a hard shift away from the Snyder stuff.
Yes, which, I mean, for me, that was like Birds of Prey. Like, I liked Birds of Prey, and it was because it was not like the other ones.
Yeah. Birds of Prey grew on me a lot over time.
Yeah.
The first time when I saw it, I was like, yeah, it's okay. But then I watched it on home video or on HBO Max, and I was like, oh yeah, this is actually pretty good. There's things I don't like in it, but overall, I really like that film.
It's a flawed movie, but I think give that one at least 2 watches if you've only seen it once.
Yeah, I'll take a flawed film with some heart rather than anything Snyder produces.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, even movies like Shoot 'em Up, like this is where I sometimes live and breathe, where I just want to throw on a movie where I don't have to pay attention. I don't have to think. I just want it to be on, something to be happening. And this is a perfect movie for that.
Yeah, there's a scene in I always reference this. There's a scene in the movie Adaptation, the Spike Jonze film Adaptation, where Nicolas Cage is talking to Brian Cox, and Nicolas Cage is showing him his screenplay for the film he's writing, and he's desperate for help.
Yeah.
And so Brian Cox, who's like a screenwriter giving seminars at a college, Brian Cox says, that's not a movie. You need to go back, put in the drama. And he finally ends his conversation with, wow them in the end. You can have flaws, you can have problems, but wow them in the end. If you do that, everything will be fine. And this film the script is a mess. Like, the story doesn't make any sense. Characters don't really have arcs, but getting from scene to scene is difficult and tangential at best, but it's so enjoyable. And the ending is so good. I can let everything slide.
It is. I always forget like how good this movie wraps up. Like, you know, you remember it for the gunfights, but honestly, the whole ending wrap up is super solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they're torturing him and they're just tormenting him, and he just breaks out and takes them all down. It's like it's satisfying. It's a good, satisfying conclusion.
Yeah, he literally takes a scalpel to the head on purpose and then uses it to cut other people.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
It's such a ridiculous movie. I love it so much. I would gladly take another one even now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm hitting the limit of what there is to say about it. I mean, it's not a very long movie.
Yeah, it's an 80-minute film. It's an 80-minute action movie.
It's fun. It's funny. It's violent. I did read they spent like 17 grand on just squib effects, which is amazing.
It's impressive. I mean, it shows. I mean, there's so many goddamn gunshots in this movie. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
And especially in the mid 2000s, I appreciate movies that use squibs over like CGI. Like, we've gotten a lot better at it now, but you go back and watch for that Max Payne movie, and when they do blood, how it just like mists in the air and disappears.
I hate that. I hate when blood turns into a red mist. I can't stand it.
It's like we're a lot better at it now than we were in 2006. But like, it was like when Bad Boys 2 came out, one of the reasons I loved it so much is because in an era of CG blood, they were just squibbing all over the place in that movie. And I was just like, oh, I love this.
Yeah, I mean, there was the scene in Django Unchained. I remember when Django Unchained came out, and it was overall I like that film. I think it's got a lot of problems, but it doesn't age as well as it could have. But the opening scene in that film where they're walking through the woods and the guy gets the shotgun to the chest, and there's that giant geyser of blood that she's oh, it's so satisfying to watch. Because I think before that there was like the Marvel movies were coming out around the same time, and I was just like, oh god, it's so satisfying to see that. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, like sometimes I want a very violent just action movie.
You need that visceral attachment, and that's why action films from the 80s are still referenced as being some of the best action films ever made, because they were unapologetic. There is
Yeah.
blood, there is gore, there is violence, there's graphic content, but we're doing it because it's fun.
Yeah.
They don't take it seriously.
And I think that's why maybe the John Wick movies hit as well as they did, because
Granted, there's a lot of CGI blood in that film, but it looks good enough where I'm like, yeah, I'll let it slide.
Yeah, and the actual action is so, like, the when you see him just put his foot on a dude's chest and shoot a guy in the head twice, you're just like, oh fuck, like we're just going for it. And like, just movies don't really happen that way anymore.
Yeah. It's difficult because production schedules are so tight now. It takes a lot of time to reset an action scene if you use squibs and condoms filled with blood squibs. It is very difficult to clean up, because not only do you ruin the set, you ruin costumes, you have to clean up your actors, you have to clean up the floor, and it's just a massive reset.
I 1,000% understand why they don't do it as much anymore.
Yeah,
but I will appreciate it so much more when they do.
I agree. I understand. Like, I work in film and TV. I'm a grip and an electrician on film and TV sets. I just got off a TV show pilot in Baltimore, and we had very long days, and if it wasn't hot outside, it was raining. It was miserable. It's probably one of the most painful film shoots I've ever been on. And we had some action scenes with some gunshots, and it was, we did use actual guns. There were gunshots, there was fire bars, we had smoke, we had car crashes, but it is very time consuming. It's very expensive. And it's because you're not only paying for the effect, you're paying for all the crew to be there. So I get why they sometimes just say, fuck it, do it in post. I get it. It's less expensive to do it in post than it is to do it on set. But when they do it on set and I see it for real, I appreciate it. And that's what I really love about Shoot 'Em Up, is that they did this for real. There's some CGI stuff here and there.
Yeah.
But overall, this is squibs and gunshots and blanks firing all the time. This is great. This is one of the last movies that actually used that. This and the Crank films.
Yeah. You just don't see
outside
it
of anything Tarantino was doing.
Yeah, like there's always going to be those directors who are like, no, I'm going to shoot on film, I'm going to use squibs or whatever, and like,
fuck you, Chris Nolan.
But like, thank God people still appreciate the physicality of like real, like Mad Max Fury Road, like really crashing cars together. Like, it makes a difference. Like, I have a coworker who also, he's a stuntman on the side, and like, he's done stuff where he plays like gangsters in movies and has to shoot like a real gun, and then other ones where it's like, oh no, we're just going to CG that later and stuff.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, which is funny because he never shot a gun until he was a stuntman. So he's always got some fun stories.
They get to have all the fun.
Yeah. But all right, do you have any closing thoughts on Shoot 'Em Up here?
If you've got some free time, if you have 80 minutes free, watch it. That you unless you're somebody that wants like politically correct films all the time, this movie is very politically incorrect. It knows it. So I think it's fine. If you love the Crank movies, this is a good companion piece.
Oh, absolutely. And like politically incorrect in the way that it does kind of poke at both sides at the same time. So
yeah, it pokes at both the uber right wing, but also liberally minded people at the same time.
Yeah. Which is it's always like a nice way to kind of balance that.
Yeah, it's the best way of illustrating bad taste on film.
Yeah. And I think that helps it stand the test of time on top of just being a badass action movie. Yeah. But all right, man. I want to thank you for coming here and talking about this movie with me.
Of course, yeah, I love talking about this movie. This is a good film. I haven't rewatched it recently, but it's one that I'm probably gonna rewatch probably tonight.
Honestly.
I didn't need to do a rewatch because I've seen it so many times, and I just have it all memorized. But watching the action scenes and the music playing, it's so satisfying every time, and it's 80 minutes. Like, I got 80 minutes free tonight.
Oh yeah, you always have time for this one. Squeeze it in between your lunch break.
There you go.
But yeah, so before you get out of here, do you want to make any plugs before we go?
You can find me over at the Film Rescue Show or Split the Difference or Palate Cleanser from Montressor Media. We take movies that were either disappointing or failures, and we pitch the hypothetical better version on Film Rescue. On Split the Difference, we compare originals and remakes, and with Palette Cleanser, we discuss good movies. And we've had you on several of those shows, Jeremy. We've had you on Split the Difference, or not Split the Difference. We had you on Film Rescue for Lockout, and we also had you on Palette Cleanser for the Crank films.
Yeah, so definitely go check out that one since we name dropped those movies so many times.
Yeah. We also have That Weird Ass Game, where we discuss weird, unusual games. And Seth and I discussed possibly moving that to YouTube so we can have some gameplay footage happening at the same time. So that might be moving over to YouTube pretty soon.
That's a good idea.
And we also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Montressor Media. For a single dollar, you get early access to all of our material. Even unreleased episodes. We did an episode on the film Polar from Netflix, one of the piece of shit movies.
Oh my God,
I
watched that.
Oh, it's awful. It's terrible.
I thought the trailer totally sold me, and then that movie was awful.
That trailer said, "Oh yeah, it's totally John Wick with Mads Mikkelsen." Nope.
Yeah. No,
nope. That's lies.
Not what that is.
That is lies. It is all lies.
That is a garbage. That's a garbage film.
Absolute shit. Yeah, I hate. And it was a last minute thing too that Seth wanted me to do, and I'm like, fucking asshole.
Oh, so bad.
Yeah. But if you want to get in touch with me, find me on Twitter at Hardcore Bshot. And also, just recently, I was on another podcast called Below Freezing, where we take movies that are at 32% or below on Rotten Tomatoes, and we decide if they're worth watching, or we throw them back in the freezer. And for the final time, I discussed the Bloodshot movie. I have the last time I'm ever discussing that film, I did it on Below Freezing, because that film sits at 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. And if you know me, you know that I'm a Bloodshot cosplayer. I still cosplay as that character when conventions happen. So I was very disappointed with the film, but I
have not seen it yet.
You don't need to. Have you seen?
I want to check it out.
Have you seen a movie called Upgrade?
Not yet. Again, so you're saying I should just watch Upgrade?
Just watch Upgrade.
Yeah.
Better Bloodshot movie than Bloodshot.
Well.
Yeah,
I'll probably get around to both at some point.
But overall, that we talked about that film for the last time, and you can find that. I can't remember the actual link, but if you go to Twitter, go to Below Freezing Podcast, and you'll find, or Below 32 Podcast, I believe.
I'm gonna have to tell a friend of mine about that, because he actually had an idea of a podcast very similar, because he loves bad movies. So
oh God,
so I'm gonna have to tell him about that.
And find me on Twitter at Hardcore Bshot if you want to talk about shoot 'em up or any movie in particular. And we also take submissions for Film Rescue, so send in your submissions now, because we're going to be starting up our new season, I believe, at the end of July. So and that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
Oh, of course.
And giving me an excuse to watch this again. And probably going to give it another watch here real soon. And thank everybody else for listening. Be sure to check out all that stuff. Check out our socials and everything, which would have been plugged at the beginning. But thanks a lot, man. And we're definitely gonna do this again.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got a whole slew of movies I can go through to talk about.
Well, yeah. I mean, feel free to drop me a recommendation anytime you want. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, and thank everybody for listening, and be sure to tune in for our next episode.
Good night.